Cronin.
Welcome to Juice in the Morning, episode 64. I'm your host, Justin Juice Kelly, and we are coming to you live from the Juice Box studio. We're getting some more decorations, and I'm still trying to convince my wife to let me buy some more. So as soon as we start doing some more Facebook Live videos, you'll see the studio growing. We have a special guest joining us all the way from Brisbane, Australia. She is a psychic slash medium, and her name is Sara Hocking. Welcome to the show, Sara. Thanks for joining me.
Yeah, thanks, Justin. This is super cool.
Yeah, and you know, I need to get like my equipment here updated because I'm going to be flipping back and forth between the recording and my notes. I need to get that dual screen action going on.
Yeah, you totally do. 2 screens side by side.
Yeah.
Or get one of the really big ones.
Yeah.
They have these monstrous ones now that I saw. You could totally have both things open.
Yeah.
And have it full page size.
And as soon as I get kicked out of this studio, I'm going to try to move like a bigger one of our monitors in our other rooms and kind of hook that up for the Facebook Lives. But I had heard you on the Jeff Vibert podcast and thought you'd be great to have on our show or on my show. So what was it like doing the podcast with him for the first time?
It was pretty cool, pretty laid back. I coached basketball with his roommate at the
awesome.
time. So Jeff got in touch with me, and I basically just rocked up to their house, and we were in their kitchen at the kitchen table, just hanging out and chatting, really laid back. It was interesting. His house was a little haunted, which if anybody heard the podcast, you heard us talking about it.
Yeah.
And it totally freaked him out.
Oh,
It freaked Caitlin out. But it was fun. If
anybody's ever interested in, following up with you, because, we'll get into some stuff on on my podcast, but, they definitely need to check out that one as well, because that was really, I just listened to it again today to re-listen to get ready to talk to you. And it's just a really awesome thing that you have that ability to kind of tune into that. But what time is it there in Brisbane? Because here in Indiana, it is 8 o'clock or 8:30.
Yeah, so it's 10 a.m. here on Tuesday.
That's
so it's like I'm in the future.
That's so weird. I love that though, because I'm gonna put it up tonight probably here, and I don't do a whole lot of editing, so we'll just kind of wing it, and I'll get it up, and then my schedule is usually to try to get it out Monday morning, but with our schedules trying to line up with the show, it just is a little bit later. But how would you describe yourself when somebody asks you what a medium or a psychic is? Like, how would you describe that?
Oh, good question. So I feel like there is actually a little bit of difference, which I think a lot of people don't know, just because unless you really look into it, it's not something that you're just completely aware of.
Yeah.
So I would classify as a psychic as anyone who kind of has these 6 sensory abilities. And there's a variety of abilities that you could have, or
and
ways that it would show up.
Yeah, that's literally my next bullet point. With like, what other like kind of abilities would people may have, and like what would they associate that with? Like, would it be a psychic or a medium?
So I'll answer. So I'll answer both. I'll do a 2-for-1 deal. I'll answer both your questions at the same time, just for the price of one.
Yes, that's awesome.
So they might have what we would call like precognitive dreams, where they dream about something and then it happens. They might see deceased loved ones in their dreams, which I think is pretty common for people to dream. I mean, you dream about people that you love on a regular basis, but it is slightly different if they've passed away.
Yeah.
They might, and this is interesting for me because it happened to me when I was little. I would go to sleep at night and sort of in that, you're not completely wakeful, but you're not asleep yet state. I'd hear the weirdest voices in my head. And like, it wasn't mine. And I was completely convinced I was schizophrenic. I'm like 10 years old convinced of this. I'm not 18. Thought my mom was going to have me committed if I told her.
Yeah, I would too.
Scared of I was totally scared to tell her. Scared of an asylum. How did I even know what that was? I have no idea. Like, there probably weren't even any in Michigan that were open at the time. But I was sure I was going there. Yeah. So I just learned how to tune it out.
Yeah.
And for other people, it might be you are thinking of a loved one who's passed or living, and like your song comes on the radio with them, like whatever your favorite song is, or something that reminds you of them.
Yeah.
And so there's clairvoyance, would be sort of what we call clear seeing.
Yeah.
So that could be dreams. That could be, I sometimes get pictures of images in my head. Some people get it like movies. The sound stuff would be clairaudience.
Oh, wow.
Anytime you feel like someone said your voice and you look and there's no one there, anything like that that's happening on an auditory level is clairaudience. Claircognizance is another one. It's a little bit trickier to explain, which it tends to be my strongest sixth sense.
Yeah.
And it's just knowing. You just know something. I can't explain how I know it. I don't know why I know it. I just know it.
That's crazy.
It'll be spot on.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It is wild. And that just like you talking about all those things, like just makes me start instantly thinking of like experiences that I've had in that area, which, you know, I don't feel like I'm not closed off to stuff, but I also am one of those kind of people that I believe in something that's like very tangible, like I can see it or hold it.
Yeah.
And that's where, like, you know, one of my older podcasts, I don't know if I actually told this story or not, but I had written about it and thought that, you know, maybe I would tell it sometime on the podcast. So if people have listened since the beginning and I've already told this story, I apologize, but it's going to also have a good twist because we're going to be talking with you about it. And it's a couple of different things, so I'll be quick about it. For example, the very first thing that happened for me was that really freaked me out, and I saw something that I didn't know really how to explain it, which was friends had invited me over for a bonfire, and we were basically drinking and hanging out in high school. I was probably, I want to say I was 16 or 17 years old. I had just started driving, so I know that I drove myself there. But we had been drinking, smoking weed, and doing all the kind of crazy stuff that kids do. And we basically, friends asked, like, we said, hey, let's go hotbox the car. So, like, you know, we get in the car, roll all the windows up, and we just start passing around joints. And the hotboxing, for those of listening, don't know what it is. It's when you fill the car up with smoke and you just get yourself extra high because you're not, you know, breathing any clean air. And so I specifically remember taking a hit, handing it to the kid in front of me, but I was really kind of messed up. So I put my head in my hands a little bit and kind of like was just kind of trying to straighten myself out. And I remember looking up, and the kid that was in front of me was not the same person anymore. It was literally, and I know that I was not tripping or seeing other things. It was literally like a different face on this person, and I don't know, like, the only way I can explain it is their smile was giant. Like, they literally, like, I don't know, almost like inhumanly possible for their smile to be as big as it is. And so I didn't like freak out. I just kind of like put my head back in my hands and then sat back up, and he was like, "You doing all right, man?" And it was back to that same person again. So that kind of freaked me out. And then, you know, my wife, and this is weird. My wife actually, we had, and once again, I'm going to get to the point I'm going to ask you, because we had been up drinking all night and decided to do the hair of the dog, go out again the next day when we woke up, and we kind of drank wine all day at kind of a brunch thing. And I was completely fine. I felt, you know, normal. Like, I was still drunk, but I felt fine. And we came home and we were watching TV. And my wife doesn't remember this because she had, at the time, drank so much she kind of like blacked out. She kind of like had a freak out moment and said that she saw somebody sitting behind my buddy, my best friend that had been out with us all day. And it really scared her because he was like, the way she described it in the moment was he was sitting on the couch behind my friend, like behind his shoulder. And it freaked me out because then it reminded me of that bonfire moment. And then the last thing that I want to throw out there that I'm trying to just see what your thoughts are on it is sleep paralysis. So I've done a lot of research on it because it's happened to me 3 times where I actually had an experience, and it was something weird. So the very first time, I thought I was dead, first of all, because I couldn't move, and I was like, you know, staring at my pillow, and I couldn't roll over or anything. and I heard this loud, just rushing sound, and it was like, and I freaked out, and I was like, am I dead? And no answer. Like, I thought this. I didn't actually say it because I couldn't move my mouth, but I thought it as like hard as I could because I thought I was like trying to talk to somebody, and no answer. And then I said, are you God or the devil? And I don't know why I thought that in my mind, but I did. And a voice responded, and it said, we are one and the same. And it like freaked me out. And so like I just started trying to move as hard as I could, heard that loud rushing noise again, and then all of a sudden I could like move my fingers, and then I could start to like, I got up and like looked around, and it was like a terrifying experience. So I like Googled it, looked it up, figured out like, that it's, they say it's because your body has that chemical keeping you still, but you're awake. So it's also kind of making you hallucinate. Every other time after that, I didn't actually talk to anybody, but I saw writing on the walls, and then it was gone. So I don't know. I can't remember what the writing was. I didn't like write it down right when it happened. And it was 2 other times after that. And, I haven't had it since then, so I don't know. It was literally the last time it happened was, I want to say, 2015 or so, 2016. And basically, the third time it happened, I kind of just like accepted it and didn't freak out. And it really wasn't it wasn't a bad experience. It wasn't scary, and I could move, and I could move faster. Like I came out of it faster. So I don't know if it was just a less intense experience, but yeah, the writing and then the voice really, really freaked me out. So I didn't know if you had any experience with that or any of those. Once again, that's a lot of information I just threw at you, but I just wanted to see
I can break it down.
Yeah, I just wanted to hear what you thought.
I want to go backwards.
Okay.
And ask you, was the writing, was it words or was it symbols?
I specifically remember it being like words. Like it was literally, it wasn't even like written like with chalk or like any, like it was basically my back was turned to my TV because I always fall asleep with the TV on. And when I was in my sleep paralysis mode, I feel like I woke up and I could open my eyes, and I was looking at my wall, and the shadow on the wall was the writing. Like it was actual like writing, but it was the shadow of it basically from the TV. And I know there wasn't anything there because then as soon as I could move and actually look around, TV was still on. Light was still on the wall, but the writing was gone, and I couldn't remember what it had said.
Yep. So I think part of it is like what you looked up with sleep paralysis, and there is stuff going on with that. But there's also the more you look into it, I'm sure you read about it too as you were researching
extensively,
where people have said they felt like they were held down, like there was a spirit there, like someone was there, and they could feel hands pressing down on their chest.
Yeah.
Or situations like that. I haven't had that happen personally, where I feel like I'm sort of trapped, but I know you can get, as I'm sure you've also researched, sort of in that in-between state where you're mentally cognizant but physically sort of disconnected. I do think part of what happens with that is there's something called astral travel, which you may have come across.
I've heard of that, and I'm actually really interested in that.
Yeah, so it's really cool. It's basically the notion that your soul is leaving your body while you're sleeping.
Yeah.
So to buy into that, you have to believe that your soul and your body are separate sort of entities that are working together, which maybe people watching believe in that, maybe they don't.
Yeah.
But it's definitely something they can look into and make their own mind up. So let's just assume that everyone listening believes in that.
Yes, absolutely.
Because it's completely plausible. So the notion is that you would leave your body and you're sort of traveling in these other realms, dimensions, which quantum physics perspective exists.
Yep.
Like,
I've definitely heard podcasts on that for sure.
And like, I can't go Stephen Hocking on it. And I just I'm not that smart. I get it on a very basic level, but I do believe it's something that happens. So I think some of the times our physical body wakes up and we're not fully back into our body yet from that astral travel experience, which I think is sometimes the sleep paralysis sensation. And other people attribute it. I don't fully understand how, because I tend to not, seek the information out, and I tend to not read people's Facebook posts about feeling like they're
Yeah.
held down while they're sleeping, just
Yeah.
because it's not something I experience. So
Yeah.
I sort of, not that I'm discounting what they're saying,
Yeah.
I just don't feel like I need to know about it, so I skip the post.
Yeah, absolutely.
But people talk about that all the time. And in terms of your question, I'm not sure that I want to broach the God and the devil being the same.
See, that was so weird
on this show.
Because what I think is strange about it is all the research and like reading everything that I have about them, like scientifically breaking down sleep paralysis. They that's never been mentioned of somebody like that I know of, and all the reading and everything that I did, that somebody's actually talked to somebody. They've seen figures, they've had that held down feeling, and they've, felt like impending doom, but they never, like, I never read somebody saying that they had that actual like thought conversation with somebody. So I just thought that
and
was
I think you can attribute it to clairaudience.
Mm-hmm.
And you were here. Did you hear it with your ears, or did you hear it in your head? Because I do think there is a difference.
It definitely felt like I was hearing it through my ears, and that was the only thing I could hear. So then maybe I am confusing it with hearing it in my head, but I don't know. I'm not sure. But I want to say, like, my first instinct is to say that I heard it with my ears.
Yeah, and I go with that.
Mm-hmm.
Go, whatever your first instinct is. I always tell people, go with it, trust that,
Mm-hmm.
because then you start second guessing,
Yeah.
and then you start making up different explanations. So I would say that probably is clairaudience,
Mm-hmm.
and we can communicate telepathically.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not gonna lie, it's completely freaky.
Yeah.
I do it with my partner sometimes. He'll be thinking about something, and I ask him almost verbatim
Yeah.
what about it.
Yeah.
And I word it exactly how he was saying it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is part of sort of psychic abilities, the psychic spectrum. And I would sort of chalk your experience with that up to telepathy
Mm-hmm.
and that communication. There could have been something there. You could have been in between dimensions. You could have been traveling and gotten that response, gotten
Mm-hmm.
it in that way. And the couch thing, it's interesting. I have a hard time if you've been ingesting in any way some kind of substance.
Yeah.
To know
And that's
parse that out.
And that's what, like, one of the questions that I had kind of written later on in the notes is, do you think that because a lot of people that I talked with back in the day when I was younger and in like youth group and stuff said that when you are doing illegal substances, you're kind of inviting stuff in. Do you think that that's the case, or do you think that that is really just kind of like messing with how our mind works anyways?
I think it can be both. So there's a little bit of science behind this, which some people are going to be like, no, there's not, but there is. So anyone who's a complete doubter, hater, like this chick is super weird and lying, go to HeartMath. I think it's heartmath.org.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, we know that our brain and our heart have electrical connections.
Yeah.
That they fire and they have electrical frequencies.
Mm-hmm.
So we give off these electrical frequencies, and you can see it even in, I don't even care if people don't believe in auras.
Mm-hmm.
If you do some type of thermal photography or anything like that, you still see these colors around people.
Yeah.
So we're going to, we have this energy field around us, whether you believe in anything psychic or not. It's just science.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe that anytime and this is with anything, if we're just eating regular food and the stuff that we're drinking, and if we're eating all processed foods and stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
I think it gives us kind of a lower vibe.
Yeah.
But if we're eating like really fresh, healthy foods,
Mm-hmm.
I think it gives us a higher vibe.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that's changing your heart frequency pattern,
Mm-hmm.
but I think it changes our electromagnetic conductivity.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Like, I'm not a scientist, so I don't have any data.
Well, you're definitely making it sound a lot better than the way I would make it sound.
Yeah, I mean, I at least make it sound super convincing.
Yeah, that's good.
So if I sort of see it two ways. I think if you're taking something that's a depressant,
Mm-hmm.
whatever the substance, I think in some ways it brings your vibe level down.
Yeah.
but I think it can also relax you at times.
Mm-hmm.
I think there might be a sweet spot that
Mm-hmm.
where you're relaxed enough at times to see things that you wouldn't normally see
Yeah.
or experience.
Mm-hmm.
And with the kind of lowering your vibe, if you think about it like, I guess sort of like a magnet.
Yep.
A magnet with a stronger polarity is going to have a stronger pull on another magnet.
Yeah.
So if you have whatever your vibe is, if it's strong, you're attracting other strong magnetic pulls to you.
Mm-hmm.
But if your vibe is really low, you're also attracting more like low vibe
Mm-hmm.
magnetic connections to you. So if I don't think this is you or your wife, but if you're in a constant state where you're constantly wasted,
Yeah.
you're constantly smoking weed, you're constantly doing something that's depressing your system,
Mm-hmm.
I can see that, like, as maybe your youth group friends were saying, that's like attracting negative stuff to you.
Yeah.
Or kind of like the riffraff.
Mm-hmm.
And I also think about it sort of like if you're walking through like a super busy place,
Yeah.
you're more likely to connect with people who look like you, people who are dressed similar to you, people who kind of along socioeconomics.
Yeah, and it's almost like the tribal thing that people talk about a lot.
So that's your tribe.
Yep.
You know, like you're not rocking up downtown dressed like you are, with your hairstyle like you are, and whatever shoes on, attracting throngs of homeless people to you, because that's just not your vibe.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's sort of the same in spirit world.
Yeah, and that's why, you know, it's something that Jen and I, you know, always joke about this, but we have bad luck, and I'm not saying bad luck in like our life. Like I'm saying like whenever we do anything that we're trying to win something or we're trying to do anything like that, I feel like we always lose. And I know that it's all games of chance, so maybe we're just literally in that percentage of we're always losing. But I feel like our bad luck is kind of like a vibe that, and I don't know if it's something that's following us around, but it's once again, like I'm trying to think. I've got examples. So pull tabs, I know, complete game of chance, complete bull crap. But I know all the people that I know that play it always have won. They have a story of winning big. We've never won big. Whenever I go to any kind of casino or anything, never win. I play fantasy football with my friends, and I have for the last few years. I won the very first year, and I haven't won since then, and I've been really bad. And that's once again another game of kind of chance. I mean, there is skill involved, but I just wonder if there is any correlation between that and like kind of the other stuff, because it's funny because I'm not really dealing with any of the other aspects. And then also I'll get to something else, but basically, do you think how do you feel about bad luck? Do you think that is something that's real, or do you think that we kind of just see it because we're looking for it?
I think it could be, again, sort of both. Which if you're looking for it, that's what you're going to find.
Yeah.
No matter, I don't care what you're looking for. If you're looking for $1 around the house, you're going to find $1. You know, if you're looking for $5, you'll find $5. You're not just going to stop at one.
Yeah.
You know, like you're going to make it happen. So there's a lot to sort of the idea, the notion that we create our reality.
Yeah.
So if you believe yourselves to be unlucky, guess what?
We're going to be unlucky.
You're permanently
So I just need to
unlucky.
convince her, because I'm still trying really hard to say that I'm not unlucky. I just have had a bad streak, and it's going to turn around.
And a lot of it too is actually where you put your intention. And there, I mean, if you think about the book, I don't know if you've heard of it. It was big on Oprah for a while. So that might be outside sort of your demographic.
I don't know, man. We've got a really, really wide one right now. I mean, it's not, I don't have a lot of downloads, but definitely a lot of different people are listening.
Cool. So on Oprah, she featured this book called The Secret.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
It just blew up. So it's this basic idea of the law of attraction. And I mean, we could really go down the rabbit hole and do an entire podcast. People probably have entire podcast shows.
Yeah, dedicated
just
to
about
it.
That. But it's this idea that you create your reality, and you create it with your intention, and not just, I want to win the pull tab. but even going so far as in envisioning yourself winning.
Yeah.
What does it look like when you win? How does it feel? What is Jen's response when you win?
Yeah.
How does it feel to take the ticket and cash it in?
Yeah.
And it's the biggest attractor that I've found, that I've read about, that I've connected to, is emotion.
Yeah.
So if you can get yourself into an emotional state where and it doesn't have to be this like I go to an ashram and meditate for 600 hours a day thing, just sit for like 2 minutes and just close your eyes and like see yourself pulling the tab and like, oh my God, I won.
Yeah.
Like, this is awesome. How does it, the feelings of it, and allowing yourself to feel that, it's almost like it attracts it to you.
Yeah.
And you're going to be like, that's great, but I can't do it.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you this. My partner has 2 kids, and the 9-year-old was upset about, he thought he wasn't getting like his gold behavior award at school. They do these stupid quarterly, and I say stupid as a teacher because I don't think you need to reward kids with certificates for having good behavior.
Yeah, you should just have
absurd.
good behavior.
Yeah, like you don't need a ribbon to tell you've had good behavior.
Yeah.
But the kid went mental because he thought he was only going to get his silver behavior award. Like he was crying in the car on the way home from school.
Yeah.
And so we talked about visualizing it, and I said, dude, if you think you only got silver, then you only got silver. You're going to be crying for a long time. But if you want gold, here's what you could do. I swear to you, this little kid did it. He did it on Monday. He did it on Tuesday. He visualized it. He thought about how good it would feel, how excited he was when the teacher called his name, how his gold certificate would look, this other sticker thing he was going to get for it. And I'll tell you, the kid got gold.
That's amazing. That's interesting because that's something that I've really been almost like convincing myself about lately, is personal momentum and personal energy. Like when you start going into the right direction and you feel like you can't stop. Like that's why, I got done talking to somebody today about like the shirts and the business, and by the way, there's new podcast shirts. I'm going to figure out how to get more, because right now I only have large and extra large, but I'm going to get some more so that I can get them out to people. But I started to make a list of people that I wanted to get on the podcast. So, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, who's probably never, ever going to talk to me, I'm still going to figure out some way to send an email in his direction. And like I said, started making a list of all the people that I've watched or enjoyed or seen, and just keep kind of emailing and putting that energy out there that I want this thing to be something bigger than just a podcast that I do out of my house. Like I would like it to be something that leads to bigger things. And it's so exciting for me to talk to people like you, because you have an area of interest that I know nothing about, and to be able to just learn about it is awesome for me, and have that conversation. And the way that I have also looked at it is I'm building this archive of stuff that I'm very terrified of being like, when I'm gone, nobody remembering me and not having any impact on the world at all. And if I have all this stuff on the internet, essentially it could live forever. So essentially like my voice could live forever. So that's kind of like one of the weird reasons that I'm doing this that I don't really talk to people a lot about. But that's really why, like, I think that it's important to do it and to keep pushing forward with that personal energy, because when it stops dead, and it's really hard to get that momentum going back forward for that energy. And that's something that I've literally just thought of on my own. Like I didn't really look up a lot of like other stuff. I just started thinking like, and putting together examples of how it's continued to help me. Like, getting you to be on here may not be like a big deal for you, but for me, that's a big deal in that momentum, like in that energy, like moving forward, because, like I said, I've only had friends and family on the podcast because I think, subconsciously I've been afraid to talk to people that I don't really know. And I wanted to be a good interviewer or a good podcaster. So I didn't want to just start off trying to get people to be on. And I think that now that I've got that momentum, I think it's going to grow really fast from here on out. And
agreed. And you have that vision, and that's your intention. And like, I could tell just from our messages how excited you were and how much you were looking forward to it. And so you're creating, that's the energy behind it. So that's what you're creating for yourself. and you continue, like we do this show together and it's like amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're like, yeah, this is so great. And then you take that momentum into who, like The Rock
Yeah.
contacting his
Yeah.
publicist, or
Mhm.
like
Just
message Jeff Vibber. The
Yeah.
dude lives in Indy.
Yeah, I'm
Like, what's he
definitely
doing?
I'm definitely gonna. I've talked to him on Twitter quite a bit. He's actually given me some really good advice because I was trying to figure out people that were kind of the local area, and he was like, just go to my website and look up the people that I've had on my show, and he's like, just contact them because most of them are local, and he was like, all you can do is ask. They're not gonna say yes if you don't ask. So he's been actually for the short amount of conversations we've had via Twitter, very helpful, and also helpful with, like, he's one of the only people in Indy that I hear on a lot of like radio stations, podcasts, things like that responded almost immediately. Like I tweeted him, I'm impressed that he has the time to do that because when you're getting those messages, I'm sure you're getting a ton a day, and to be able to respond to my random like question, like what kind of mics do you use, what kind of like equipment do you use, and for him to respond is just such an awesome thing. So I'm definitely going to stay in touch with him and try to stay in touch with you and get you back on here if you're ever in Indiana or in the Indianapolis area.
In the U.S.
Definitely, yeah, definitely try to get you back on. Is there, for example, for me, I am like, look up to some of these podcasting greats like the Adam Carollas, the Joe Rogans, these just multiple people that I listen to. Is there people that you look up to in the field that you're into, like with the medium stuff, like people that you look up to as like, they really got that stuff figured out, and I'm trying to get to that?
Yeah, and I think it's interesting because I think I do look up to them and I think we all do this without realizing they're still people, and like they look outwardly like they have it together, but maybe they don't have it any more together than I do.
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
There's a woman, her name is Denise Litchfield. She's Australian.
Mm-hmm.
I came into contact with her via Facebook pretty early on when I got here.
Yeah.
And so she's been pretty cool to watch her growth,
Mm-hmm.
and to watch, she made a Facebook group and I joined it basically when she made it. And that was maybe a year and a half ago. And she's got like 3,500 people in it now.
Oh, wow.
And it's super active. It's really cool. So just seeing people like that growing. There's a publishing company, and there's one in Australia, one in the US, one in the UK called Hay House.
Mm-hmm.
And if anyone's into spirituality, Hay House is sort of like the cornerstone, like the big name publisher and the biggest of the biggest names kind of across the US.
Mm-hmm.
Work with Hay House and are published through Hay House and like New York Times bestseller type things. Yeah. And that's I keep my eye on that, but at the same time, I
feel like it's something that you would like in that like field that you're in, that it's almost like you do want, like, you may look up to somebody, but you're also creating your own thing, right? That's
exactly what I was leading into. Mm-hmm. So I look up to them, and I feel like the Hay House people sort of show me what's possible, mm-hmm. so that I'm not just stuck in like the internet, mm-hmm. doing readings on Facebook, which is not what I do anyways, but some people, that's what they're doing. But my vision is bigger than that. Mm-hmm. And sort of seeing that people, and it's not just about the Benjamins, but at the end of the day, it's about the Benjamins because I have bills to pay.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, like, even if you die, your student loans don't go away.
Absolutely.
Which is mind-boggling.
Which is insane. I can't believe that's, I didn't know that was the case. So it just gets dropped down to the next person.
Yeah. Okay, Mom, I'm dead, but you've got my student loans to take care of now.
Jesus. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I got another like 30 years on mine. So.
Oh my God. I can tell, I could probably talk for an hour podcast about mine, which I've decreased them, thankfully, but they're still there. So I need to be able to make a living wage and be comfortable in what I'm making. Yeah. And I also sort of look at, my dad's an attorney in Michigan, and he mm-hmm. works for himself. Yeah. And so I see that, like, working for myself has been on my radar for a while, but like he's an attorney. What, I have no idea how much he makes an hour. Let's
Yeah.
say $300 an
Yeah.
hour.
Yeah,
Like as
just
a
like an
teacher,
average.
yeah, whatever, just like a maybe average lawyer fee.
Yeah.
As a teacher, I mean, there's no way.
No, there's
It's
not
even possible.
there's not a $300 an hour teacher out there. I mean, if there is, they're definitely private or something.
They're doing way better than I was doing. But I want that, and not for the money, not for the stuff. I want to be able to travel.
Yeah.
You know?
Experiences
like,
is what people are talking about a lot lately, is not so much
Yeah.
investing so much money into your stuff as it is investing it in experiences. And I've been trying to have that myself for the podcast, is like, you know, going out and meeting people and getting that experience, because it's really, to me, I feel really open to talking to people, especially like just one-on-one, like what we're doing. But I think that getting out of my own head and thinking, because my negative thought a lot is I'm not going to be good enough at this, so these people don't want to do it. So my whole thing is like trying to get myself out there to get my name out there so that people want to do this, and I don't have to like beg somebody to come on and do something, like do the show. It's like somebody's getting a hold of me because they're like, oh, I heard this and I liked it, so I would like to get my stuff out there.
And I think too that whether it's at the forefront of your mind that like I'm not good enough, people, and this isn't just for you, this is applicable to everyone. It's applicable to myself, which I think I can speak about it as I've sort of grown through this process.
Yeah.
As we believe that we're not good enough, then we're not. And that's the vibe we're sending out. And that's the reality we're creating for ourselves, even when it's happening on a subconscious level.
Yeah.
That's where we are. So anyone who's stuck feeling that way, you're creating more of it in your life. So there's a lot of stuff out right now about mindset, and there's entire apps about mindset, and kind of like we were talking about motivation, and just being really in the present and not worrying, because any worry is just projecting possibilities for the future.
Yeah.
Like you're worried about something, dude, you don't even know if that's going to happen.
Exactly.
And so
you can't be worried about something that's not even in existence yet.
Right. It's just like a potentiality. And I was just talking to my mom, not about that exactly. Like my car just bit the dust today here in Australia. So we had it at the mechanic at like 8 a.m. And it's just like, I almost wish I could just leave it on the street and have someone steal it.
That almost might be a better situation.
Yeah. It would be 100% better option. And so I was talking to my mom about financing options, because I don't have permanent residency. So like my green card for Australia. So I can't get a car loan here.
Yeah.
I was like, Mom, what the heck am I going to do? I was like, Lisa, my sister's here. Like, do I ask her to take out a loan and then I pay, like I make the payments instead of her? My mom did the worry about what's possible. If you messed with money with family members, it just leads to a really bad place down the line. And what if you can't pay for it?
Yeah.
What if I can't pay for it? Like, I'm not financing a $50,000 car.
Yeah.
Like, I just need like a $12,000 Camry or Corolla or something.
Yeah.
Like, come on, Mom. And just like the worry. And I just would not buy into what she was saying.
Yeah.
So we had to change the subject because I was just going mental.
And keep you in that positive thought, and we'll think positive for you too, and we'll keep that energy for you as well with the car situation.
I need as many good vibes to get an Australian car so I can drive on the wrong side of the road and the wrong side of the car.
So with your work, can you give me like a favorite experience, like somebody maybe that you helped or something that you did for yourself, even, that is like your best, what you think is the coolest or most fun story that you've had with it?
Yes. So this is twofold. I have a friend, she lives in Hawaii.
Yeah.
And so none of my friends, I know some people in Australia. I wouldn't say I have friends here. Yeah. I'd also call myself a recluse, which is pretty hard to make friends if you don't go outside of your house. Because no one comes over. I mean, the post guy comes and delivers packages, but I don't want to be his friend. So she and I talk pretty regularly just on Facebook Messenger. But we will sometimes trade sessions, because I think it helps too in business to have a friend who you can bounce stuff off, who can see your blind spots.
Okay.
because I mean they're completely blind. I
Yeah,
don't know what they are.
absolutely.
Like, I don't know what my problem is.
Mm-hmm.
So we were doing a trade, and I worked with her for a session. Excuse me. And this is something else people are going to need to kind of buy into, the notion of reincarnation.
Yeah.
With anyone who's interested in reincarnation or is questioning it, Brian Weiss, he's an MD.
Mm-hmm.
He's like a legit medical doctor, trained physician, psychiatrist.
Mm-hmm.
He has a book called Many Lives, Many Masters.
Yeah.
And he stumbled on it trying to like regress a patient who had a fear of water.
Yeah.
And so he was using hypnotherapy to try to cure this fear.
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell you the whole book, but it basically goes on from there. Phenomenal work.
Yeah. And that's something that I've always been interested in because, you know, you do have dreams sometimes that you're just like, you're in a completely different life in a completely different time. I've had those experiences myself, and it definitely seems like it's because my dreams are very vivid. Like when I dream, like that's why I've started waking up and writing them in my phone, like when I have them, just so that I can remember them. And I've started putting them in like I have ideas, like, and that's literally just the header of the page, and I put them on there, and there's some stuff that I've like thought, you know, this would make a cool movie or a cool TV show, like, and then I'll read it the next day, and it'll be like I'll see what I was getting at, but like sometimes they're just like really like jumbled, and like the ideas are really messed up because I'm so like out of it asleep. But there is some good stuff, and like I said, there's stuff that you would never have expected your mind to be able to come up with, and to imagine that it would be a past life or even a future life because of the whole quantum physics thing that we talked about earlier. You could be seeing something that's happening, you know, 200 years from now, and that's why it's so weird in your mind, because it doesn't even make sense.
Yeah, you don't have a way to conceptualize it. And if you think about 1817, there's no way they could have conceptualized cars or cell phones.
Yeah. So like, so if you're like literally having that almost like that flashback, you're thinking from that level, not thinking from your level. But what were you talking about with your friend? I'm sorry, I always get off on tangents. Okay. I'm terrible about that.
That's okay. I can bring it back. That teacher, because I taught for 10 years, that teacher and me, we can go on a tangent, and then I can bring it back to the discussion. No problem.
Awesome.
So she and I were talking, and we were sort of doing like a healing session, and I don't know how to describe a healing session for people who are like, what is this woman talking about? It's basic, just helping her. Okay. So I was just talking to her, kind of working through this. And her grandfather's presence was coming in really strongly. I could really feel it, really connecting with him in a sort of mediumship type way, which goes all the way back to the beginning. So a medium is someone who can contact people who have passed on.
Yes.
And it's a medium because, like, let's say your grandpa dies. So I'm in between the two of you communicating. I'm in the middle, sort of that mediumship. Yeah. So her grandpa, though, my friend's grandfather, hadn't died. Like, he's still alive. I think he lives in Virginia. So we were talking about it, and she's Mennonite, not anymore. Like, she grew up Mennonite. And so her grandfather was the head of their church. Oh, wow. So it was a really big deal. She also is highly intuitive, does psychic readings and stuff. She basically left her family, left behind the Mennonite culture, and hasn't been in any contact with them. And so he was really coming through, and he was obviously a man. It's her grandpa, but he always had warts. Like, he had warts on his face, warts on his hands. And he would joke with she and her cousins when they were little and say, I'll give you a nickel, or I'll give you a dime for your warts. You know, because like, I think all our grandparents would give us like pocket change when we were little.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't spend it all in one place.
Try to not spend your whole nickel. Now the kids like get less than $5 and they're mad. But we were talking about this and sort of repairing that relationship on like an emotional, spiritual level, because they don't have a physical level relationship. And this is not even made up. I couldn't make this stuff up. And like, my mom will tell you the reason she believes me.
I'm completely in.
Yeah. She tells me she believes me when I say stuff because I'm not creative enough to make it up. So my friend in Hawaii, she messages me a couple days later to tell me how great she's feeling, like the weight is off her shoulders, but she had these warts on her feet and they were gone.
That's weird.
Warts that she had had for 10 years.
That's crazy.
She tried every over-the-counter treatment and the warts were completely gone.
That's wild.
And we had just sort of had this, I guess, energy healing session with her grandpa who wanted to buy her warts. I was like, oh my God, your grandpa bought your warts.
That's so wild. That's crazy.
So they disappeared. So fast forward, I don't know, maybe a month, 2 months.
Yeah.
And she does a session for me because I messaged her and I was like, something is going on. Like my feet were, I don't even know how to explain it. Both of my feet were swollen. They were sore to walk on. They had like these pussy blister things. Yeah. I was sitting at my desk, like I'm sitting right now, but I had an ice pack on the floor and my feet on an ice pack.
Wow.
And they were hurting so bad. I was like, man, I don't know what is wrong with my feet. Something's going on. So immediately she's like, well, there's a woman there, a young woman. And she starts describing her. She said, I think it's one of your grandmothers.
Oh,
and
wow.
I was like, that is not one of my grandmothers.
Yeah.
The information she was getting, again, past life, is that it was a woman I knew in a past life. We were, for lack of a better term, considered witches in France in the 1800s.
That's crazy.
She did something that she wasn't supposed to. I took the blame for it. And of course, like, what do? You get burnt at the stake.
Oh, yeah. Wow. That's crazy.
So my feet were literally feeling like they were on fire and blistering and like pussy, disgusting.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, great. So she basically said she wants your forgiveness. And so I thought in my head, I forgive you.
Yeah.
And I was like, what else do I need to do? She was like, that's it.
Wow.
I can't even make this up. Within 10 minutes, I was sitting in the recliner, like a lazy boy recliner, with my feet up with ice on them. Within 10 minutes, my feet were fine.
Yeah. That's
crazy. They weren't
crazy.
red, they weren't hot. They weren't swollen. The blisters were going away.
She was just all right, thanks. I just needed you to tell me sorry. Tell you that I forgive you, and that's it. Now I'm out.
Completely unreal.
That's crazy.
And that's been like the sort of the biggest like proof of like weird, spontaneous, miraculous healing type things. So I've been facilitating sessions similar to that with clients. I do like normal sort of psychic readings.
Yeah.
But I like those because they have a bigger impact.
Oh, yeah.
And it's also been, so I believe that we make agreements within our reincarnations on like a soul level. So when we say, we have to be a little careful when we say things like always or never, like to your partner, oh, I'll always love you. Yeah. I'll always be your partner. I'll always be here.
Yeah.
Well, dude, really? For always? That's like forever.
Yeah.
Into the future.
I don't know if you
10 lifetimes from now. So it creates problems sometimes for people in their relationships. Or a bunch of us have taken vows of poverty in past lives, like we've been in the clergy or something like that and taken a vow of poverty or like a vow of secrecy, or we've made this agreement with ourselves, like that we have to atone for our sins, whatever they might be. And we agree to like suffer for what we've done.
Yeah.
Well, we're carrying these energetically from lifetime to lifetime. So a lot of my work right now is centering around helping people release those. I mean, it's a pretty simple, like straightforward process. It's not like a lot of witchcraft and wizardry.
Yeah.
But it's been really powerful. And one girl I worked with is opening her own business now because of it. Another girl, her business, she was doing this artwork and charging like $75 a piece. Yeah. She's charging $300 a piece now. Wow. And it's worth that. Yeah. But that's sort of a result of the work that we've done.
And so for me, I always grew up feeling that there was like, something bigger for me, but then I also have at the same time a feeling of I'm really average at everything. So I take some kind of pride in it because I can pick things up really fast, but I don't really ever really master anything really quickly. So like, for example, like when I was growing up as a kid, video games, like me and my friends would play video games. I would get really good and beat everybody, but then all of a sudden, like I would hit like a plateau of that averageness, and then other people would get better at other stuff, and then they'd start to like kind of beat me. And I'm very competitive too. So then, we'd move on to a different game. Or, for example, sports and not even sports, like stuff at work. Like whenever I learn a new task or learn something at work or other jobs that I've had, I'll pick it up really quick. But then, I'm about as good as I'm going to get after I pick it up pretty quickly. So I just wondered if there was anything that you could tell about that at all, because it's something that I always tell people. And I know that it's not that I'm not looking for validation. I literally feel that is the case, like that I am happy with it and I've kind of accepted that. But I also wonder why I also have at the same time that feeling that I am meant for something way bigger than the average thing.
I feel like all your answers, I'm like, well, there's a couple reasons why, or there's two things.
We could go on for a while, I feel like.
Yeah, I think there are a couple things happening. I think one is that in other lifetimes, you've probably had to fly under the radar, so you weren't noticed, so you weren't drawing attention to yourself. For one lifetime that just popped into my head was taxes. You were wanting to avoid paying taxes, so you had to play it small and make your outcome look smaller.
Yeah.
Like it was a farming lifetime, like an agrarian life. And so downplay how much you're reaping in your crops to not pay more taxes to the crown.
Yeah. That sounds good. That sounds right.
Yeah. So I think we do carry these aspects and just some of our innate beliefs and abilities from lifetime to lifetime. And I think the variety of things that you're good at, and it's not like you have to be great at them, but just like good enough to be competitive with them.
Yeah.
I think at times that will draw on your abilities from other lifetimes. Not that you're playing video games in other lifetimes.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But just, I mean, it is a hand-eye coordination skill, and sort of a neurocognitive ability. And I think you're also very open-minded. And so your brain has a certain degree of plasticity.
Yeah.
And so I think other lifetimes where you've had this variety of experiences leaves you more open-minded and more willing. And I think too, with the feeling like you're destined for something bigger, I think when we have that feeling, we are.
Yeah.
Because we come in, I do believe that we come in sort of with a purpose for our lifetime. And you're clearly drawn to podcasting and drawn to media and getting kind of the word out. But I also feel like there's an element, and we haven't talked about this ahead of time at all.
Yeah, exactly.
There's an element where you want to connect people. And so you're connecting people with your voice and your work, and you're giving them something to connect with.
Yeah. And
I see it as this web. And not just like a web that builds so you can have a big audience and have like lots of people buying your shirts.
Yeah.
But because you can share with people things that they might not know, and you can give them new experiences. Like we're talking about experience.
Yeah.
And that's innately part of you, and part of your purpose for this lifetime is to do that. And whether it's like talking with me or Jeff Vibber or The Rock or whoever.
And that's crazy that you bring that up, because and the people listening, we didn't really talk for more than 5 or 10 minutes before we started, and it was just me asking how long she had been in Australia. What you just said though makes a lot of sense, because everybody always wants to ask me what genre my podcast is or what like category it is, and I always say that it's not one thing. I want to talk to all kinds of people and all kinds of subjects, because I want people to listen to this and hear something on somebody else's idea, and then that gets them like into something, and then they get more enjoyment out of their life because they've listened to something that they didn't plan on listening to. For example, I did a show with my cousin who's into Dungeons and Dragons. I know nothing about that, but it's he's very passionate about it. And that was one of my highest downloaded episodes. He did, it was like 700 or 800 downloads. And, most of my shows don't get that many like right away. It kind of like builds on top of each other. So it's just whenever, and also I feel like when I'm in conversations like this with like even with you, where it's like kind of smoothly rolling and we're going along, it gives me that rush that I get when I'm doing something that feels important. So like, and I've had shows that don't feel that way. I've had, episodes where I'm talking to somebody and it's like, it feels like it's hard to get information out of them, and it's kind of a hard, difficult conversation. And that's where I feel like I need to build my skill at making people feel more comfortable. But, I've always equated like some of this like stuff that I know when it's great with like goosebumps on the back of my neck. Like I get those when I know something is hitting somebody else. Like I know that it's like they're on the same page. They're digging what we're talking about, and I'll get that. And I feel like I know that they're feeling it, even though it's like, even though it's not, audibly spoken, like they're not saying like, oh, this is great. Like I can just tell, and I have that feeling of like that momentum and all that stuff that we talked about earlier.
And it's interesting that you use goosebumps, because I call that my truth barometer. Like when I'm talking to someone and it will be like this really epic statement, either coming out of my mouth or their mouth, that all of a sudden connects the dots. I just get head to toe goosebumps, and I use it as confirmation that that's something that's true.
Yeah.
And it's frequently something that we don't have any evidence to substantiate.
Yeah, exactly.
In sort of the 3D reality, but on like a psychic level, we've hit on it. And then I'm like, oh yeah. That's it. And I think it's similar.
And I think that it's just talking to you, man. I feel like we could probably do 2 parts, because just talking to you, like it's already taken me back to earlier on in our conversation where we were talking about audio. A lot of the times that I hear that and get that goosebump feeling is when I'm sharing a song with somebody that they haven't heard before. And I like, if they don't like it, I don't get that feeling. But if I know they like it, even they could be sitting stock still and I just know that it sounds good to them, I will get that goosebump feeling. And it's a lot of audio related. And then, when we talked about with the sleep paralysis, like that was another audio related thing. So I think that I associate a lot of energy and stuff with just audio stuff. So I think
part of it. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, go ahead. I was just filling space.
I think another part of that to acknowledge, and another piece for you and another piece for anyone listening who's like, oh my God, that's me.
Yeah.
Is there's something also called clairsentience, which is associated with empathy and literally feeling other people's emotions.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of what's happening with the audio for you, is you're picking up on their emotion, and maybe you're not naming it, like they're happy, they're sad, they're contrite, they're furious, they're frustrated, but you are picking up on that emotional level, which I think is how I think that's probably one of the largest areas of abilities where people have these sixth sense abilities but don't realize it, which I would assume is happening. Not assume, it's sort of like intuitively I know that's what's happening for you, because you are, if you think back to being in school and stuff, and you might have been super cool, calm, and collected on test day, but if the kids sitting around you are losing their effing minds, then you're feeling that too, and it's like amping you up and getting you stressed, or going into like the SAT or ACT, you're prepared, but you can feel everyone else's nervousness, so then you start feeling nervous too, but it's not even your emotion, you're feeling someone else's. And like, how can you feel someone else's feelings? Like, I swear someone in the audience is just like telepathically asking that as they're listening, because we're all interconnected. Everything on a particle quantum physics level is connected.
Yeah, I definitely don't feel.
Dog is out in the backyard. She's so mad at me because I won't let her in. But like, we're on a physical level, we're actually connected, even though she's out back.
Absolutely.
And like, you're an indie, you and I are connected right now. We're connected to everything in the universe. Yeah,
it's kind of like mind-blowing to think about it. And I've thought about that just because I have a segment that I've called the deep thought of the week, which this whole episode is the deep thought of the week. So I don't really even need to do the segment, but that is like, something that I've thought of before, which is, I feel like there is a magnetism in the world because, me and 6 other people that I either listen to or I talk to at work or something like that, we'll have a similar conversation about something, but none of us are connected in any way whatsoever. Like, they don't listen to anything that I listen to. They don't watch anything that I watch. And then all of a sudden we're talking about dolphins or something like that. Like, and then a podcast that is not associated with another podcast is like talking about dolphins and how smart they are. And then I have a girl on my show who I know doesn't listen to any of those podcasts. I asked the question, if you could fight any animal, or how big of an animal do you think you could take in a fight? And somehow she landed on dolphin, when dolphin's like one of the smartest animals. They're in the water, like they're going to tear you apart if you're going to fight a dolphin.
Yeah, you're dead.
But it's funny that like that whole through line of the dolphin and all of those things, like that means that there is a connection somewhere, and I can't explain it, but it's definitely there, and I completely buy into that.
And I think for anyone who's interested, I actually just learned about this concept within the past year or so. There's, and I don't know the scientist's name. I just drew a total blank. I just put a video from him up on my Facebook business page like last week.
And what is that, so that people know what that is?
My business page is...
I've got it, I think, pulled up.
Sara Hocking Spiritual Alchemy.
There you go. That's exactly right. I've got it pulled up on Facebook.
Facebook was super weird. I tried to change the name of it, and they freaked out, and I had to submit like 3 things and like appeals, and like, I'm not even joking. It
Facebook doesn't play around.
To change. No, like 2 months to change the name, and I have to prove that that's what that's applicable to what I'm doing. Come on.
Yeah.
Anyways, this guy has this notion, scientist guy, not Professor Dumbledore. So he's got a notion of morphic fields.
Okay.
So sort of this, and it applies a lot to the animal kingdom, but we're part of the animal kingdom.
Yeah.
So if a monkey can learn to play a drum, and you teach a monkey to learn to play a drum, all monkeys are connected on some genetic quantum level. Yeah. So that monkey playing the drum, it automatically becomes easier for other monkeys to be able to play a drum. So I think crazy. That plays it. Yeah. So as you're doing your podcast and you're taking it, I'm assuming your background is not media.
No.
And communication. So as you're doing that, you're also making it easier for other people who don't have that media background to do the same thing.
Yeah. Awesome.
I don't understand why, but you just are.
Yeah.
And there's another notion of the collective consciousness, that when you look at events, you know how they'll have like World Day of Prayer.
Yeah.
Or after, like, I think it happened after 9/11, where a whole bunch of people were like praying at the same, maybe not organized on purpose.
Yeah.
Or monks meditating, like thousands of monks will gather and meditate. It creates a change in electromagnetics on the Earth scale. I
completely buy into that too, because I always say when there's an event getting ready to happen that, you know, me and my friends are wanting to do, and then it's like, say it's an outdoor event, and I'm like, I keep telling everybody, like, they're like, oh, it's going to rain, or the forecast says 95% chance of thunderstorms. I just keep telling everybody, like, no, we're going to be so pumped that this is going to be a great day that the weather is going to be different. And for example, that happened at the Indy 500 this year. All of the weather forecast was saying that the Indy 500 was like 60-70% chance of storms all day, and that it was going to be just a terrible day. They were going to have to cancel the race. And I know this doesn't always happen, and I know that there's no way that it's always going to happen, but I kept telling, we had a cookout at our house to watch it, and I kept telling everybody, just be positive and we'll have a good day. The weather will stay good. And we woke up that day, everything was completely different, and no rain. And then as soon as the race was over, it was almost like the world like gave us like a, you know, kind of like, there you go. We gave
like an exhale.
Yeah, we gave you what you wanted. Now this is just the entire huge storm that just like wiped everything out like right afterwards.
That's crazy.
And I was like, I think that like I said, I buy into that stuff, and I don't really tell a lot of people that kind of thing, because I don't know, like, I know my friends know that I'm like kind of joking around about it, but I do literally believe that just the positivity and thinking that the weather is going to be better can potentially make the weather, like, and even if it's not making the weather better, what what is it hurting by thinking that you're putting the positive energy out there? Like, there's no way it's going to hurt something.
So think about how many people, not just you, like everyone, think about how many people were coming into town for the Indy 500. Like, you don't want to fly in or travel in for an event when it's just going to rain all weekend.
Yeah.
So how many people are coming in for it? How many?
Few 100,000.
Yeah.
At
they
least
have a barbecue. They go to a barbecue. So, it's a city event, but there's people elsewhere who are watching it, and they don't want to watch a rain delay race. Like, that's boring.
Yep. Countrywide.
And so this collective mindset of, man, I hope the weather's going to be good. Man, I hope that happens. I totally think we can tap into it and we can make a difference.
Yeah. So basically we're kind of getting to the max time. My wife has texted me, so I'm sure she's wondering why I'm taking so long. Just for the last, like, kind of closing stuff, do you have anything that you want to share specifically with me or people on the internet for basically, like, your social media? We already talked about your Facebook. I didn't know if you had other stuff that you wanted to share. I know you have a website. It is.
Yep, I have a website. It's just sarahhocking.com.
Yep.
SARAHOCKING. Really easy to find. Mm-hmm. I think if I haven't checked it within, I don't know, semi-recently. I think if you just Google my name, my page will come up on the front page of Google.
Yep, it does, because I found it and started reading about it and kind of got a background on you, even though we didn't really get too deep in your background. But I feel like just meeting you and doing this show, we'll kind of be able to stay in touch and
for sure. There's so much stuff to talk about.
Yeah, I'll follow you on Facebook.
I am kind of out there, Pat, beyond what we've talked about in terms of weird magical things.
Yeah.
So I'm doing something that's called channeling.
Mm-hmm.
So it's sort of opening yourself up to, and you've seen it.
Yeah.
If you've seen Ghost,
Yeah.
Whoopi Goldberg is a channel.
Mm-hmm.
So almost like someone else speaks through you. Mm-hmm. So I've been doing it with this kind of weird singing. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't sing. I'm not musical. My brother's in a band. My sister's a music teacher.
Yeah.
I coach basketball.
Yeah.
Like, not music.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm starting to do channeled songs, I guess, and just do like little recordings on my phone.
Mm-hmm.
And I've revived my YouTube channel.
Okay.
So I have a little YouTube channel where if people are interested or like, what the F is she talking about? They can check that out.
Yep. I will definitely subscribe.
To navigate. Yeah, I think it'll be cool.
Yeah.
Once I just have to make the videos. Like, I just had the idea yesterday.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome.
It's not that advanced.
So we're on the ground floor right now then.
Yeah, totally. Totally. I just made a Pinterest account. You can do Pinterest for business.
Yeah.
So I'm sort of looking at that.
Nice.
And like,
I'm trying to figure out the business behind everything now, because I started out just doing it for fun, and I think that it's starting to get to the point where I need to kind of like do the shit or get off the pot kind of thing, where I need to kind of figure out the financial part of stuff. So
and I'm happy, like, we don't have to talk about it on air, but if you want to talk about anything, like, I'm super happy to answer any of kind of your startup questions or business stuff.
Yeah.
Because even though like we're in completely different areas, I think startup stuff is still kind of the same.
Oh yeah.
So just let me know if you have questions
Absolutely.
about that. But
So Facebook, YouTube, and your website, and then Pinterest. And
I'm doing weekly. I have weekly. If people are like, what is this? Every week it's Wednesday at 9 p.m. your time, Eastern Standard Time.
Yeah.
For anyone not listening outside of the Eastern time zone.
Yeah.
I do a Facebook Live. And so I do like a forecast for the week, not like a weather forecast, like what's going to happen kind of energetically. What can you expect? Maybe like pitfalls for the week, like someone double crossing you.
Mm-hmm.
And then I do live questions and answers. So if people are like, is she legit? She didn't even talk about anything. She didn't prove anything.
Yeah.
Watch the Facebook Live.
Oh, yeah.
I do it for about an hour, maybe 15 minutes are the forecast. Mm-hmm. And then the rest is all Q&A. And it's just, it comes through really quickly.
That's
so
awesome.
It's not like I'm sitting there like meditating on people's questions. Like, I'm just answering them as I'm reading them on the screen.
Yeah.
So if people want to do that, like if you want to check out like what is a psychic reading, what is it about, what are you doing, just watch and kind of see. You can see how I answer the questions.
Absolutely.
You can see what comes up. Anybody can ask a question. They can ask. I don't really put limits on things, and
Yeah.
if it's something private that I'm not comfortable answering for that person on air,
Yeah.
I'll just ask them to private message me.
Okay.
So I have that weekly, and then I'm doing something called the Circle of Dragons, which is a monthly event that I'm starting. I don't have a date for July. I just did the
Yeah.
June one on like the 21st.
Yeah.
But it's like a $7 paid event.
Yeah.
But it's more of like sort of that healing process that I was talking about with my friend who like her warts disappeared.
Yeah. That's awesome.
It's yeah.
So definitely people that are listening, it's Sara Hocking, SaraHocking. And just if you put it into Google, that's what I did after I talked with her for a little bit on Facebook, and I just kind of did some research. It's super easy to find. It's not difficult. It'll pop up almost right away. So
I'm not the country music singer.
Yeah.
I will put that caveat in there. That's not me.
Yeah, and just make sure you do follow her on Facebook. I'm doing that right now, so we're kind of nearing the end of the time. So I just want to thank you again for coming on, and I appreciate you doing the podcast. I mean, we got into so many things that I would definitely like to schedule it again at some point.
Yeah, definitely. Just let me know. And it's pretty easy for me because my mid-morning is your kind of early evening.
Yeah.
And I am 99% sure you have another, like a job.
Yeah.
So
I definitely work full time. The good thing is it kind of flip-flops. I'm either early one week or late the next week. So even on my late weeks, it's kind of cool because with your time difference, it'll still be kind of morning for you. So that's pretty nice. But do you have anything last that you want to say? Because you did on the Jeff Vibert podcast, you did do a reading. So I want to try to do that at some other point, but not today because we're kind of at the hour and 10-minute mark. But do you have anything lastly that you want to say to people listening?
I think just approach it. If you're being skeptical or if you're like, this is mental.
Yeah.
Like I grew up in Michigan in a small town. We had like 2 traffic lights in the town. I'm like a completely normal, like grounded person. Yeah. I don't do weird. Just by them listening, do weird things.
They should know.
Like I do weird things, but like, dude, I'm wearing like an Old Navy sweater and like an Old Navy V-neck T-shirt. You know, I don't think I look like a witch.
No, you definitely don't.
Like I would totally still pass for a teacher.
Yep.
And I just feel like I'm really normal, grounded, down to earth. So whatever people's perceptions are, like just kind of be open about it because I think there are all kinds.
Yep.
In terms of spiritually connected people, and just. I mean, if you're interested, reach out, connect with me. Like, I really prefer to connect on my business page rather than personal page.
Yeah.
Because I'm the recluse part of me. Like, I don't want people to know what I'm doing on Facebook.
Absolutely.
Which I know is weird.
But yeah, once again, just keep an open mind. I have a completely open mind about this stuff. So you guys listening might have gotten a little bit more information about me that you didn't know beforehand because I do think about a lot of weird stuff on a pretty regular basis, and I've had some interesting experiences that I don't necessarily think that I can explain. So if you guys have any of those, you're more than welcome to send me emails or tweets or Facebook messages. I'm always open for all of that. But once again, thanks for being on, and we'll do this again. Okay?
Yeah, for sure. I totally appreciate it.
Thank you, and thank you for joining me. That was a great podcast with Sara Hocking. You guys know that you can find the podcast on all places that you get podcasts. You can get it on YouTube. I always post the links on Facebook. I always post the links on Twitter. You can get them at my website, libsyn.com/juice in the morning. If you'd like to call in and leave a voicemail for the show, the phone number is 317-762-5823. And you can always call in, leave a voicemail. I'll answer any questions on the air. I'll answer anything. You can ask me anything, and I'll answer it. It could be rude. It could be funny. It could be sad. You can just send whatever you want, and we'll interact, and we'll get you on the show. If you'd like to send an email, whether it be a good email, hate email, anything, you can send it to juiceinthemorning@gmail.com. And once again, thank you all for listening and paying attention, interacting with the show. It's growing. We've got the T-shirts now. I'm going to figure out the whole financial side of this thing, and we'll start taking over the world together. So let's do it, guys. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you guys next week.